All right, guys. Today I'm going to take you through some points. We're going to the Parsha a little bit different. More of like I would like to give you with points to actually think and to go over, but we'll see where it takes us. So let's rock here. So we have a double parasha, but I would like to concentrate on the last one. This week is Parashat Behar-Bechukotai. I really want to look at Bechukotai. And Parashat Bechukotai, is the one that seals and finishes. Basically, we're finishing the Chumash of Vayikra. Also, Vayikra is called in English Leviticus, right? So there is a pointer that makes me always pause and wonder. It says, "Venatati panai baem," and I would put my face upon them. And the question is this a curse or a blessing? So this parasha is probably one of the most deepest and most trembling parashiot in the whole entire Torah, and it gives us the parasha a whole array of tracks. Well, actually, I wouldn't say array. Two different type of tracks in which you can go through life. On one hand, you have im bechukotai telechu, if you would follow my path. Vepaniti elechem veifreti etchem, and I will turn towards you, and I will make you fruitful and multiply, and you're going to have blessing. And on the other hand, he says, if you would not do so, venatati panai bachem, and I will put my face again on you, venigaftem lifnei oivechem, and you're going to stumble and fail in front of your enemies. Of course, the deep question is being asked here: how is it possible that the same face, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, "V'natati panai bachem, v'natati panai bachem." How is it possible that there's two faces, right, which is the same calling, the same direction, could appear as a bracha, as a blessing, or a cursing as a klala? How is this possible? And another question, and maybe even a more difficult question: how is it possible that those panim, this face, or the divine, comes as to us, as a curse, but at one hand it's like endless love and blessing, and the other one gives us tremendous suffering and misery and so on and so forth. So we need to understand something. Idan, you're not typing this?
Oh, yeah.
So put your foot down. Okay. So
should I go get it?
No. So the question is, the thing is like this: the light does not change. What changes is the vessel. The vessel changes. The Zohar says that the divine reality itself is never changing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, does not move from anger to love, from kindness to punishment. The light that comes from God, guys, it's so important to understand that. It is so important to understand that. The light that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always love, abundance, giving, life, unity, and so on and so forth. Always. That's a constant. That's how it always comes. The problem is, again, not with the light. The problem is with the receptacle, with the kli that receives the light. For example, the sun shines, right? And the sun shines always. Even if there are clouds, the sun always shines. However, one person might go out and he could feel the light. He could feel the nice warmth that the sun gives, and he feels alive. The other person closes the shutters, closes the screens, and stays home and stays in the darkness. The sun did not change. The sun kept giving the whole entire the same thing over and over again. The receiver is the one who changed, and the attitude towards it, and so is true regarding human. Here, take some human awareness. where's the psychologist and the house psychologist? Hey, how you doing, house psychologist? So in human psychology, in the human awareness, and that's part of psychology that deals with human awareness. A person does not experience reality the way it is. He does not experience the reality the way it is. A person experiences reality based on how he is himself. So if you need to think about it, this is such a massive point. When you tell me, oh, this bad, it basically what you're saying to me, when you describe the way you go through things and so on and so forth, you are basically giving us an insight to who you are internally. All this, from this point on, the way I look at it, from this point on until the end of the Torah, it's all about making those decisions, and it's all over. And so on. This is all through the Torah. And it is a tremendous lesson to all of us to try to get an understanding of that and really direct our lives into a totally different way, because it does not help you. And a person who is always pessimistic, who is always negative, who always experiences anger, who always thinks that somebody's trying to fix him and trying to fail him and trying to take advantage of him, is not describing reality. He's basically describing himself. You got to think very carefully who you want to associate yourself with. So, and why is that? Because two people could experience the same exact incident. The same exact incident. One is going to experience a collapse, and the other one is going to experience growth. And why is that? Because the experience is not being created by the event, but rather from the interpretation of the event. How you choose to interpret things. Modern psychology explains that the person lives within a system of beliefs, within a system of memories, traumas, fears, self-image, self-portraying, a story of life, a story that he tells himself throughout lives, and so on and so forth. All this together create an awareness filter. Everything that you experience goes through this filter that you based on all these things that we mentioned right now, and of course more. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, therefore I'm not claiming to give you, but if you want, you take a look into that. So therefore, when God's light meets the person, right, one person is going to be open to that experience and is going to experience a tremendous inspiration, is going to experience tremendous enlightenment, and a closed person who is closed is going to experience a threat, right? He's going to feel oppressed. He's going to feel, persecuted. A person who is a loving person is going to experience tremendous closeness, and an injured person is going to experience rejection. The reaction to the reality, as I said to you before, is basically a description of the internal structure of your own soul, of your own awareness of how and who you are inside. So now, when it says, "Venatati bachem panai," and I will put my face upon you, that expression, as we said, also in the bracha and also the klala. In other words, the same exact face could be interpreted in two opposing ways. From a philosophical point of view, reality itself is neutral. A person gives it its own meaning based on his interpretation. And this is a very deep idea that you could find, of course, by one of my favorites, Viktor Frankl, Carl Jung, right? I sent you the stuff that I sent you this week about Carl Jung, right? Even by Baruch Spinoza, you'll find similar ideas about that. Viktor Frankl claims that the person is not always in control, most of the time, is not in control of what is happening to him, but he's always in control of the meaning of and that he gives to what he's experiencing. It's not something that most of us like to hear. because it puts the complete responsibility on our lives, on us, on how do we describe and experience things. And we don't like to assume responsibility. We would like to blame everybody else for what is going on, instead of really taking a good look at ourselves. So, I mean, that by itself should be enough for the Parsha, but with your permission, I would like to continue more to just bring you a little bit more of that point. When it says לא מאסתים ולא גאלתים, מה זה למאוס בסמברי? Repulse. No, לגאל is repulse. מאסתי is like, discuss, yes, like,
enough.
I had enough of them, right? So after all the curses comes this amazing verse. It says, ve'af gam zot, and even upon that, whatever they did, that you didn't listen to me, you didn't go in my ways, you cheated on me, you betrayed me, and so on and so forth, regardless of all you had done, or they had done, in other words, the Jews. And now, by the way, that's something that some faiths, without mentioning names today, because today everybody gets a little, hissy-fissy about this thing. Certain faiths don't really like that, because they build on the fact that God's word had changed, and right now, whatever God promised us is done. But God doesn't work like this. He doesn't change. So, regardless of what you did, lo me'astim ve'lo ge'altim lechalotam, I would not erase the Jews, and I would not push them away. And I would seek their closeness all the time. And this is maybe one of the most moving verses in the whole entire Torah, when God swears to us is ultimate loyalty to Am Yisrael, regardless of what the Jews would do. Regardless of what we do, God says, I'm always here. I am always with you. If you choose not to be with me, that's your choice, but I am always with you here. For me, it's very moving. It's very touchy. It's very moving verse. When people, for example, hate, right? That hatred causes repulsion. You're repulsed by a person you hate. A person needs to justify himself after he's disconnected from the other, and that's what we always do, and that's what people do all the time, right? So, for example. Why do you disconnect from this guy? It was good for you. Well, then you come up with a story. And then you feel, the more you tell the story, the more you are disgusted by the person. But this is all a story that you made up in your mind. This is not the reality. So, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, he says, even when you're far away from me, you're going to be in all corners of the globe, probably not observing my ways, very far from me. I still want you. I am still here for you. And according to Kabbalah, the word lechalotam, also could be called lekalatam. Right? Lechalotam, right? It's the same thing as a kala. Kala is a bride. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls Am Yisrael my bride. And in other words, the relationship between God and creation is always, and us as well, is always a relationship of love. As much as a chatan, the groom, the groom. You are the groom, but believe me, yeah. Yeah. You're lucky if you're a broom. Usually you'll turn into a doormat. So it's always a relationship of love. It's always of love. God is not an external judge that does like this, right? He is a loving entity that never stops loving. Because if God would so-called stop loving, the whole entire universe will collapse. Would not be able to exist. So it's not only us, it's also the movement of the stars. Everything in creation is, and if you think about this, I mean, you think that, it's only because of the balance of Earth around the sun and the stars and the sky, I mean the sun, that's how we get perfect here. So you think in your your great mind, right? That you are in control of destroying your environment and so on and so forth, and you're so insignificant that you could destroy the world. You cannot destroy the world. The whole entire universe is in, and beyond the trillions of galaxies, and there are endless galaxies beyond what we are able to see. If you know that, right, we only able to see basically into the past, right, which is, if we look into space, we always look into the past. Let's say, 15 billion years. Beyond that, light from the further places hasn't yet reached the place that we can actually see it. So there could be another, I don't know what, quadrillion galaxies out there. And it's all in perfect harmony, so we could do what God wants us to do. Just think about that. It's unbelievable. And that is an ultimate act of love. Kadosh Baruch Hu keeps the balance of things the way they are. With our arrogance, we think that we control the world. We don't. We don't. Doesn't mean that we have to neglect it. We need to upkeep it. But we are very small and very insignificant. So if you're going to go back to a little bit psychology, we're going to go a little deeper into that. It basically looks like is what you're working here is man working against himself. And what do I mean by that? It's maybe one of the most important understanding that we can get from this parasha is that God does not punish us the way we punish ourselves. It doesn't work like that. When a person, for example, is full of guilt or anger or shame, right, or self-hatred for that matter, what happens is he condenses himself, he squeezes, he shrinks himself from within. It's like a utensil that you put in tremendous vacuum, it simply collapses inside. So when you're full with the self-hatred, with feelings of unaccomplishment, and so on and so forth, don't worry about, the other guy who is so successful in your eyes. Because if you're going to compare him to him, and you based on your wrong measurements, you're simply going to crush within. Whatever he does, none of your business. Whatever he did, not your business. Start looking at what you do. But we are full of shame, full of hate. And by the way, when it became a thing now, I see it many times. I guess it's even in Judaism, there's trends. There's always the trend about feeling guilty about yourself or feeling better. That's the way of Judaism. If you understand Judaism the way it is, and if we try to apply what we learned so far about Judaism, if a person made a mistake, grow from it. Don't hate yourself for it. Grow from it. Because if you're going to start hating yourself, you're never going to be able to actually fix it. That's the bottom line. And that's what we call this, how we call this kind of a way of repentance. We call it tshuva me'ahava. Repentance that comes from love, not from fear. Fear does not work. And I don't think that fear should be a part of the Jewish conversation. We should not implant fear into people. We should implant love and confidence and strength into people, not fear. It doesn't do good to anyone. Doesn't do good to anyone. So now, what happens is, and you talk in the Kabbalah, that's called Tzimtzum HaKli. Tzimtzum HaKli is the shrinkage, internal shrinkage of the vessel, which the vessel is basically you. So now, if the light is there, the light of God is always there. It's coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in. But what happens is the vessel closes, becomes smaller, less space and less space and less space. In psychology, you could call it a emotional blockage, or whatever term you guys use over there, right? Emotional blockage, you call it something like this, right? Which is basically a certain pattern of survival. You're trying to disconnect yourself from any kind of emotion so you could actually survive. Which is an emotional disconnect, is a spiritual, not spiritual, a mental protection of the person, right? You try to disconnect yourself so you could justify what you're doing. A person does not stop from receiving love because there's no love. A person stops receiving love because he's not able to actually hold it. You can't hold this love anymore. The love is always there. And you can find love in many things. And I'm not talking about love, I'm talking about real love, right? The oneness of love. If we talk about physics, if we bring physics and we bring it to awareness, so the quantum physics shows us, would reveal to us something that it's really amazing, that the person who looks, the observer, really has the influence about the way reality shows up. The way once you determine, let's say you have two identical particles, once you determine one to be A or plus, the other one immediately, at that moment becomes minus. You could choose it whichever you want, the neutral. You said this is plus, this is going to be minus. You said this is plus, this is going to be minus. That's the way it is. So the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes, or light in general, sometimes behaves like like a wave, and sometimes like a particle. What does it mean? In other words, reality is not stiff. Reality is not only this and that's it. That's why what you see is not always, as they say, what you get. Many times you could look at things differently, right? So the experience that you go through, it really depended on the way you look at it. How you experience things is the way you're going to look at it. For example, where's Moshe? Moshe. Let's say, for example, you decided you want to go on you need to do what a man needs to do, right? What does a man need to do?
Get a motorcycle.
Get a motorcycle, right? You get yourself a Honda Rebel 1100, and you decide to go on a long cruise, and you're riding through the whatever the heck you're riding, I don't know, somewhere in the plains. And now you could experience it whichever way you want. You could say, oh my goodness, I'm lonely. And then you're going to say, lonely, I'm Mr. Lonely. You feel sad, you're going to cut in a corner, cut your veins, and goodbye and good luck. You can't take it, you're lonely. You could say, oh my goodness, wow, finally. It's amazing. I finally feel that I'm alive. Feel that I'm alive. And that split of a second sensation that you're alive will carry you probably maybe to the rest of your life. You cannot do it in a group of people. It depends how you go. It depends on how you choose to interpret what you see. If you go on a motorcycle and you're going to say, oh wow, this is a nice scenery, but this bike is bad. Instead of having a Honda Rebel 1100, I should have a Harley Softail. I would have to have the Indian Scout. And you just ruin the experience because you start interpreting it. Learn to look at things, just do it. Just let it in. Just let it in. That's why I suggest to you all the time, when you go to occasions, whether it's weddings or Brit Milah, whatever it is, any experience that you have or you're about to go through, do not take anything that would alter your reality. For example, alcohol, weed, drugs, whatever. Do not dare to take it. Don't be stupid and say, well, best way to do is I sit down on Masechet Yevamot, I smoke a joint, and that's like letting Tosfot the best way. And you're not learning at that point. You're not learning. That's not learning. You need to experience something, and then believe me, it happens. Believe me, it happens. One time it will happen to you, and you would read a pasuk or you read a verse, and you understand the whole creation from one point to another. That you cannot reach when you are splitting, making a spliff over there, or thinking you are Bob Marley, with payos instead of dreadlocks. That's not going to happen. It's only come with a clear mind, clear awareness. So, thank you. So. That is from the guy who always says, "Guys, put up the phone," right? Wow. Anyway, yes, I know. So when a person, when we're talking about now, if you mix out Kabbalah and spirituality together, when a person lives in the awareness of a perud, of separation, the world seems to be split, divided, threatening, with great competition, and it's tremendous lacking. You feel empty. But when a person lives in awareness of unity, the world becomes like a flow, like a divine providence is there, as a connection. You feel the movement of life itself. You feel reality outside, right? Maybe reality is very similar, but the world, the internal world, is completely different. In other words, when you see the light, do you see the light as a wave, which is a connection, right? As an endless connection, and it goes from one side of the universe until the other side of the universe. Do you see it as a wave? Or you see it as particles? Because if you see it as particles can only be in one place in one time. You cannot move. How do you see it? How do you choose to see it? So now, Parashat Bechukotai offers us also a glimpse on what I call spiritual responsibility. Parashat Bechukotai is not a horror movie, it's not a horror story, you're not doing this, I'm going to do this to you, and so on and so forth. But rather, I'll call it if we dare to call it, I call it the Book of Awareness. The Book of Awareness. It teaches us how do we experience reality, how do we expand or condense ourselves, how fear closes your vessel, and how love opens your vessel, makes it available to receive more. The bracha and the klala, the blessing and the curse, are not an external punishment that you need to understand, but they're a result of a state of awareness that you are at when you are as a person, right? This is the state of your awareness. So when a person, for example, lives in separation, he lives in anger, he lives in resistance, he lives in fear, he experiences darkness. When he, for example, opens up, right, and he sees, and he allows the light to come into him, he can trust people. People who are not open to love never trust anyone. Here you can trust people, you could love, you could connect, because the light is always there. And if we take those approaches that we said, now we understand now what it says, what it means. Venatati panai bahem, I'll give my face into them. Which face is basically up to you, right? Venatati panai bahem is not a threat. God is not threatening us, but rather revelation. And the question is, how are you meeting this face? How are you meeting this face? Are you meeting him from fear? Are you meeting God from guilt, from separation, or from love and trust? HaKadosh Baruch Hu never goes away. There's nothing you can do to make God go away. The light never turns off. But most of the time it's us who turn our back towards God. And then it seems to us that the light is gone as well. But at the end, of course, there's the great promise, Lo me'astim velo ge'altim. I would not be repulsed by them, and I'm not going to push them away. This is love that is not dependent on anything. Love for the sake of love. So we determine how the reality is going to look, and it doesn't make a difference. How many times will I turn my back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? His love is still tremendous and endless towards us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not angry on us or with us. It's rather we are angry on ourselves. And the more we become frustrated, angry, and so on and so forth, we are causing our vessel to be able to receive less and less light. And by doing so, we're preventing light and in a way HaKadosh Baruch Hu to enter our lives. And when we do so, not only that light doesn't come in, whatever light is inside of you is not able to come out. So as a result of that, people don't want to get near you. Because in a way, if you are a vessel that hold the light, people are going to be like moths flying towards the light. So if people are not coming to you, and people don't seek your closeness, means that light is not being projected out from you as well. So this is why we are the ones who we are the ones who determine whether what we're going through is going to be a blessing or is going to be a curse. Therefore, guys, it is all in your hands. I hope you choose right. Shabbat Shalom.